sound echoing?
Yes. I apologize. Yes, please. Bismillah. Thank you for joining us for Ramadan feast.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So Ramadan is a time of fasting, which leads to this gift of heightened consciousness of our true selves, if I can say, and who we're not. A lot of times we live in a very bodily way because we live in bodies. So we're eating, drinking, talking, thinking, responding, reacting, and everything just happens so fast. Especially if you have a personality like mine where things just happen fast and your thoughts are running fast and there's so much to do, which is very common, I think, in the human experience in general. And for those that don't know, I was, I guess I can say, blessed with the experience, a very close experience of the passing of my brother, my only big brother, on February 2nd, which is relevant for this topic because it's something that death is something that we are asked through narrations of the Messenger of God to remember often, because it's supposed to help our journey in becoming conscious on this path. And also in the Quran, there's plenty of references of death, and through our studies with Receiving Noor, we've also focused on this. And I knew somehow the topic would be about death before even knowing what I would talk about. And somehow the Quran revealed itself to me through these ayat. So I'm going to be, just for the sake of time, reading from ayah 150 in Surah Al-Baqarah, and just sort of sharing a handful of ayat first, and just sort of sharing the reflections that have come to me that reflect the culmination of the teachings that I've been receiving through the halakas we've been having together with Sister Yamina thus far, and how it just all ties together to my journey of this awakening of consciousness that I've been really lucky to experience, alhamdulillah. So in ayah 150 in Surah Al-Baqarah, towards the end, I came across the verse that says, "And hold not them in awe, but stand in awe of me. And so that I might bestow upon you the full measure of my blessings, and that you might follow the right path." Or in the Arabic, it's وَلَعَلَّكُمْ تَهْتَدُونَ, so that you can be guided, this concept of huda, right? So when I think of the Quran, I open it because there's feelings on my chest, or there's a need nonstop, right? Every new second is a new opportunity for us to feel new things. So we're constantly being reminded through these feelings that come to us or thoughts that come to us, this need for guidance. Sister Yamina has been focusing a lot on breathing, right? And it's, if anybody's been with us so far, there's been this practice that was written down as homework of just listening to your breathing for 20 minutes in the morning and in the nighttime. It wasn't until I actually started doing it at least once a day with the experience of the passing of my brother that I started to see what guidance is truly such a miracle, to receive the guidance of witnessing your breath. When I say the word witness, I was lucky to have been doing this meditation because of feeling the need for it, and then seeing how doing it often actually, like Dr. Ali says, like the more that you do something, the more that you practice it, it becomes your new habit, and you find reminders coming to you more often to help you stay in alignment with your consciousness. So that's just sort of a first thing to say, that I would hope everyone can go ahead and do that, because it's been really beneficial to me. And if you take a deep breath, because Yamina, Sister Yamina, mashallah, always starts with this breath, you might notice almost like a space inside, is what another meditation called it, a space inside. When we lose the whole purpose, I feel like, of the Quran is to bring us to this state of consciousness, like this mindfulness. And with Sister Yamina, we've been using the breath, and through the breath, it may be so that you can feel this space inside. And if you see through this space inside, it's like you start to see through your eyes. You can start to observe your thoughts as something that's not you, but just something you can see almost through a window. So the full measure of my blessings from the Quran is saying that you might be guided. And there's something about being in awe of only God, and not being in awe of anyone else. 251 then continues, because now I want to know, well, what is it to be لَعَلَّكُمْ تَهْتَدُونَ, to be of these that are guided, right? In order, we say in the Fatiha, guide us to the straight path. So this concept of guidance is like staying aligned with your consciousness. 151, even as we have sent unto you an apostle from among yourselves to convey unto you our ayat, our signs, and to cause you to grow in purity. So there are some signs that are, so now in order for us to receive the full measure of the blessing so that we can be guided, the next verse is saying sort of the formula. I'm going to send you messengers to help you see our signs and to cause you to grow in purity. And this purity occurs to me as this melting of the I. When we say I'm thinking, oh, I'm feeling, I'm doing, which remember, I recall what Dr. Yamina shared in the past was the ghafil, the one who's forgetful. When he wakes up in the morning, he reflects on what he's going to do, whereas the intelligent man sees what God is doing with him or through him. So this idea of growing in purity, to me, it came as a message of this melting of the I, or starting to witness ourselves through this space within, if you will, because there's really no word to explain that aspect of who we really are. The verse continues, and to impart unto you revelation and wisdom. And the revelation is introducing us to the doer, the one who's actually doing through us, through the universe. And the wisdom we've learned with Sister Yamina through Surat Luqman was this gratitude to God alone, which comes almost automatically when we follow the first three things: conveying the signs, seeing the signs, and then allowing those signs to, or seeing them through this space of consciousness where we're growing in purity, then receiving revelation and wisdom. And the verse continues, to teach you what you knew not. So remember me and I shall remember you. Remember me and I shall remember you, and be grateful unto me and deny me not. So far, I just want to connect everything. This has just been a blessing for me to just try to connect everything that we've been doing so far. By becoming aware through my breath of this space inside that I'm the observer. And once I saw my brother, like this person that was once a living being, talking and planning and doing, as just a corpse that was no longer him, it was easy for me to surrender that I was not the doer, and nor was he. And this concept of remembering death is so beautiful because it's a like lightning reminder, that just shortcut, that we're not the doers. When we think that we are the doers, we're immediately entering heedlessness, which is what the Quran is guiding us to stay away from, so we can stay in alignment with our true selves. And through that lens, inshallah, we'll be more able to see things being done unto us. And then therefore, when we're doing our breathing meditation, we're cultivating a deeper awe of the real doer that's doing everything at the same time. 153 continues, O you who have attained to faith, seek aid in steadfast patience and prayer, for behold, God is with those who are patient in adversity. So we know that we're going to be constantly fluctuating, and the image of an EKG comes to my mind, right? Like up and down, up and down. And then because we're going to be experiencing different thoughts and different feelings and different events, like life never pauses. So there's constantly new sounds, new thoughts, new things happening. And we're being asked to seek aid in order to, again, like remain in this state of guidance, which is the full measure of his blessings, and which relates to somehow being in awe of him alone. The formula for seeking help on that path is to patience and prayer. For me, the patience, I'm not a patient person, but for me, the patience comes in through the meditation, because the breathing meditation we've been asked to do thus far really helps you just slow everything down. And then it becomes your new state of your new baseline. Like you prefer that slowed pace. And for me, it just helped sort of everything come together. 154 says, and say not of those who are slain in God's cause, they are dead. No, they're alive, but you perceive it not. I'm just going to continue. And most certainly we shall try you by means of danger and hunger and loss of worldly goods, of lives and fruit, but give glad tidings unto those who are patient in adversity, who when calamity befalls them, they say, verily unto God do we belong, and verily unto him we shall return. It's they upon whom their sustainers blessing, the words are actually salawat from their Rabb, which I'm sure has a different meaning than blessings, but support from our sustainer is also another way to receive that word. So when we can, because death is happening nonstop all around us, and if you also had the experience that I've had to experience, it's even more of an awakening call. But clearly, death is being pulled into the equation here with this concept of receiving the full measure of blessings, and the path of guidance. So these are the ones who their sustainers' blessings or support is on them, and rahmah and mercy. Okay, so I'm just going to pause there for a second. And all right, I'm actually going to continue because 208, everything just kind of comes together. And this is in the same surah, chapter 2, the cow, ayah 208. There's this invitation and this calling, and it says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, like, oh, you who have belief, who are trying to live with this belief, udkhulu fis silm kafa. Come to this surrender. Come to this silm, which comes from the word salam, right? Like there's the same word, same root. Kafa, holy. And the image, I know if Sister Alia is on the phone, maybe not, but there's this image of this complete whole surrendering, like floating in the ocean. And if we go back to this breathing and witnessing, like this window of witnessing that we can through our bodies, right? Like when I saw my brother laying there, I can just tell you guys that because of the training I've been given through Sister Yamina and other with Dr. Ali, alhamdulillah, I was able to arrive. Somehow I received this notification that he wasn't here anymore. His eyes were no longer seeing, his mind was no longer thinking. And putting that kind of in our shoes now, we're only seeing through eyes, we're only feeling through this skin, and we're just sort of temporary living in these bodies. So what does it mean idkhulu fi salm, like silm. What is this? Kafa, like come to this surrendering wholeheartedly. For me, it speaks to me as everything that we're experiencing, if we're in that space of consciousness, is just coming. Like all of a sudden I might feel a sudden aggravation, but if I can breathe with that patience and make that, cultivate that as my new hal or my new state of being, then I can see it as something that comes as opposed to feeling it and reacting. And then when you can be the seer or the observer, for me, idkhulu fi salm kafa means that, like you're floating almost in the ocean and you're seeing how you're just being carried and given along the way. The verse continues, وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ, like, and do not follow the footsteps of Satan, for indeed he is to you an open enemy. Whenever we're not in alignment with this silm, this peace, this observation, this state of being the observer, then we're out of alignment with peace, and we're claiming to be this I, which is the, if you will, like the jihad of our lifetimes, right? Is to really become aware of who we really are and witnessing that there's a being that's communicating with me and through everything around me. Whenever we feel like peace has left and now there's some agitation or a new worry or a new quickness or a new something, that's like we're pulled out of alignment all of a sudden. And the Quran is saying, وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ, like don't follow those footsteps that are pulling you there. Come back to this surrender by how? Noticing indeed that thought came to you from God, that messenger, that feeling is a messenger, it comes from God. And then how do we respond? Through that patience and prayer, we can return it back to God in conversation, through asking for guidance, through pausing, so that we're staying in a state of silm, if you will, and not owning or reacting to anything that's happening around us, but really staying in that observer mode. Okay, I'm almost done. I know we're going to be on time shortly, so.
That's okay.
Okay. In Surah Al-An'am, chapter 6, ayah 161, passage 161. It says, Innani hadani rabbi ila siratim mustaqim. Indeed, my sustainer has guided me to the straight path, which is what we're being asked to seek, right? It's like, oh, yeah, right. That's the thing that we need all the time. Like, how do I stay in that alignment of Sirat al-Mustaqim, which is basically, for me, now I'm understanding that it's staying in alignment with that observer mode from within by being aware through your breath of this space. Breath is just the easiest way to come back to being conscious that you're not the doer. So Sirat al-Mustaqim is like this alignment with who you really are, which is a window immediately where you see Rabb, you see giver, you see sustainer, you see the one taking care of it. Whenever we're out of alignment, that relationship is, we can't see it anymore because it's I am getting upset or angry or happy or doing something. So that window or that space inside is almost covered for that moment that we lose ourselves. So this verse says, behold, my sustainer has guided me onto a straight way through an ever true faith, the way of Abraham, who turned away from all that's false and was not of those who describe divinity to aught beside him. And Abraham is used as the archetype of belief in Tawheed, which is the main teaching of the Quran, or like what Sister Yamina says is the the process of unifying the doer as only one. The next verse. Okay, so then the question I have is, all right, here's the Sirat al-Mustaqim again. Here's the straight path that every day in every one of our prayers that we perform 5 times a day, we're asking God for Sirat al-Mustaqim, please guide us. And here's this word about huda again. Ihdina, innani hadani, so my Lord has guided me. The next verse says, come to the conclusion, قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. My prayers, this what I thought was my prayers, what I thought was my worship, what I thought was my living, mahyaya. So anything in this living, this concept of having life, and everything that basically every moment, wa mamati, and my death, lillah, belong to God, Rabbil Alameen, the one who takes care of everything. This is the conclusion I just feel like that we're being asked or guided to reach, which is the truest example of Tawheed, is to be able to surrender completely. And these are just words, like language are just words that we're sort of restricted by in order to try to arrive at the real meaning of what's happening, which is more of an experience or feeling. And I can just say for sure that after seeing the way my brother passed and actually running downstairs to do CPR on him as soon as I realized that there was a potential of death happening, I can see how this verse says, we don't own anything. There's no my prayer. There's no my anything. In fact, even death is given. And when we realize that we're not the doers, we're just observing life through this space that's called either a soul or a spirit, and we're receiving things nonstop and just being asked to stay guided in alignment with the real doer. The verse continues, لا شريك له وبذلك أمرت وأنا أول المسلمين. No partners, there's no partner power, there's no real doer, there's no other power to do anything other than this one. And this is what I have been bidden, and I'm the first, أنا أول المسلمين, I'm the first to surrender to that truth. The final verse here is 246, chapter 2, ayah 46. Again, وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ. Of course, it's not easy to exist in this state of consciousness nonstop because we're created in a way that we forget often, which is why we're given sort of homework exercises to follow up with often so that we can cultivate the state of being, of seeing through our reality. And wasta'inu bis-sabri was-salah, it's like seek help, you will need it, with this patience, with slowing things down, was-salah, and prayer. وَإِنَّهَا لَكَبِيرَةٌ إِلَّا عَلَى الْخَاشِعِينَ. Indeed, it's really hard to be of those people that can constantly find themselves turning back in patience and prayer, except for those who are khashi'in. This translation says humble in spirit. So who are those, right? Because I want to be of those. الَّذِينَ يَظُنُّونَ أَنَّهُمْ مُلَاقُو رَبِّهِمْ وَإِنَّهُمْ إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. The ones who know with certainty that they are meeting their sustainer, and to him, they are returning. That's these are the verses that took me on a journey of witnessing through this space inside these words of guidance, and I hope inshallah that they're beneficial. So if anybody has any comments or questions.
Jazakallah khair, Sarah. I like obviously the visuals that you give, mashallah. It makes us like be with you through these experiences. And subhanallah, like what you have just shared with us, for me is an example of Tanzil, of Ramadan being the month of Tanzil, where things come together when you have space for them and when you have a need and hunger for them, which you definitely had. And also it encourages us all again who like to create that space, if we haven't created it within ourselves, to create that space within ourselves. And then all of a sudden you start seeing ayahs speaking to you, like this ayah is connected to this ayah. Like I like how you walked us through them and brought them to, like, you know, to a conclusion. And just another reflection, a little bit off topic, but in topic and off topic, is the verse that you have quoted, قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ وَبِذَلِكَ أُمِرْتُ وَأَنَا أَوَّلُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. That this, the first time I heard this and it caught my attention, was a dear friend of mine who was defending her PhD thesis. And usually at the beginning of the defense, we would say something like, I thank so-and-so, and I thank so-and-so. And she started her defense by saying that all of her work that is coming, like, you know, it's a gift from God and it's meant as worship for God. And since that day, this ayah has been one of the ayahs that like would always have something new that will be revealed on us. Jazakallah khair for bringing all of that to us.
I'm just going to add, Alia, mashallah, to your beautiful comment that we don't have to create space, subhanAllah. Like we don't have to do anything. And it's so hard because we're such doers. And that's why I really would say we have to do the homework, because without it, I would just feel with the homework of the quiet meditation and listening to our breathing, it shows you the space. And then I just joined another meditation a week ago that brought my attention. They said, whenever you leave, this was not a Muslim one, but they said, whenever you leave this state of mindfulness, just come back to alignment. So I asked, how do you come back to alignment? And then he said, I don't use the breath. I just use awareness of the space inside. And somehow just the word just triggered this window where I was just, I don't know, I just received the insight of this window of seeing through my body. And don't get me wrong, there's plenty of times where I lose that window and it shuts real quick when something happens and I react. But just cultivating it as a hal, as a new state of being, is really has been the key for me, was just doing this quiet meditation and then feeling this space inside and realizing that we're just existing, we're just living and seeing and witnessing through this space.
Jazakallah khair, Sarah, for sharing. And I'm grateful for this reminder, because I was thinking recently that how many times I hear and I myself state that, you know, we're coming and we're just guests here. Everything is passing. We're returning, and yet a side inside me constantly saying very firmly, like, you know, I belong here. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere yet. Everybody else is going. There's this kind of silly, stubborn side in us that says, despite everything happening, I'm here. I'm not going. Maybe I will not go. Maybe I'm here as if forever. And that side can quiet down when we give more space, as you were saying, to breathing, because the deep down the Ruh knows. At the same time, you're actually witnessing your brother passing and sharing that with us. That gives me more certainty that, you know, when and there's, as you were speaking, I thought of that verse in the Quran, the passage that actually talks about, I think, in the end of Surah Waqa, where it says that, you know, the soul is at the hulqum, and if I say at the throat, and call anyone you want to kind of stop that, and it's leaving the body, and there's nothing you can do. And that is a very strong image of, despite what that stubborn side in me says, despite what the entire universe maybe say, entire world could be claiming that we're here, we're not going anywhere, let's just pretend we're not on a journey. Even if the whole world is saying this, when that moment comes, especially that moment of transition into the other world, there is nothing that can stop it. And you bring all the whatever entertainment, whatever that you think could help you, it's not going to happen. And you're witnessing that directly and sharing with us helps us to kind of, you know, wake up a bit better, at least for myself. I appreciate that. Are there any questions, any comments? And questions can be put on the table, we can discuss together. Alhamdulillah, I think Yamina is with us as well. So any comments, any questions about what Sarah generously shared with us?
Yes. Assalamu alaikum. This is Maha. Sarah, I want to ask you about the tension, the moment, the in between, feeling the presence of God or feeling forsaken when you're watching your beloved brother die. And what happens? It's this is to me a very sensitive space where one could either be very open to Allah's presence and feel the divine mercy, or the opposite, or feel alone and isolated and left abandoned at a moment of crisis. Could you tell us a little bit more?
MashaAllah, I would love to. First, alhamdulillah, the one taking care of us and giving us breath is really so beautiful. Is such an incredibly beautiful being, because everything is very precisely planned for everything, the whole existence, beyond imaginable. And so I say that because I've been experiencing these studies together, and some of which my brother, alhamdulillah, was joining me in with Sister Yamina and Dr. Ali, alhamdulillah. So the training is like preparation for me, alhamdulillah. It's not like I walked into something without any, as I'm sure I would have a totally different experience if I didn't have any preparation for that. Nor was it the first experience. Like, I've been called to life-changing moments through death, which is the first thing that brought me on this journey anyway. So I see how, again, back to that observer, I see how I've been called to witness death in a very close, real, and raw way often. The first just being my grandma, when I saw her taking her last breath, which is when I started really seeking guidance of the Quran more meaningfully. But for your question, I was called downstairs because my father noticed that he wasn't breathing. So when I went downstairs and saw this body on his bed, on his pillow, that's no longer breathing, immediately the reaction was panic and just CPR and panic. And then that panic was also, mashallah, I've come to learn through discussions with, actually, mashallah, Sister Yamina and Isra, when they came, was also guided though I wasn't seeing it as guided, but it was guided because it's the order that we follow automatically, though I wasn't conscious in that very moment. However, after some time of doing CPR, I felt a realization come onto me, landing on me, that like lifted me out of my feelings, that let me know that he was no longer here. Now, the incredible thing about it is he was just sending a text message an hour before. He was just planning the night before how to bring this fiance from Morocco. He was just making all these plans and had no idea that today would be the day. And yet it just came. And my response was walking back up the stairs. My mother had asked if he was dead, and I said, let's just pray, because I think that's it. And immediately we just went into this state of total, and again, this is a huge blessing because something comes onto you that says you have zero power. Literally, it just forces you to surrender totally and realize that nothing, not an aspect of life, not an aspect of death was in your hands in the first place. So everything is being taken care of nonstop by a single being. So there's never any need to worry about anything while we exist at all. And seeing death is what helped me see that there's never any need to worry because nothing is in your hands anyway. It's all this false idea. And the false idea is the only reason why we stress when we fall out of alignment, if that makes sense.
Thank you for the question, and thank you for Sarah for engaging it. Sister Yamina, I see that you have some notes here in the chat box. Would you mind speaking for a couple minutes? Instead of me trying to read them.
Assalamu alaikum. It was in answer to what Maha said. Basically, Sarah answered it. It's just that it's an interesting question. It touches to the very basics of how we choose our free will, and it's a choice. Most of the time, when we are not conscious, we think we are not choosing, but actually we're choosing by default. And that's the difference between accepting and rejecting, between surrendering and resisting, or rebelling sometimes even, is all in our hand. And it can be scary, but it also is the best gift that was given to us. And if we want to make sure that we are using this gift to our benefit for the purpose that it was given to us in order to achieve the best in this world and in the next, inshallah, then if we want to be of the surrenderers most of the time, then we need to prepare for it. Like we prepare for everything. We don't just get on a car and start driving. We learn how to drive first, and in the beginning we drive slowly. We don't go on highways and everything. And how come when it comes to using the most precious and the only actually power that we have, which is the power of deciding which path to take. وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْنِ. There are two paths, either surrender or not, either accept the reality or ignore it. So we need to prepare for it. And if we prepare for it on a daily level, then whatever the choice we cultivate will be our state of being, and it will be made easy unto us. سَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْيُسْرَى. The path of ease in it will be made easy unto us, and it will be easy to accept and surrender in times of ease and in times of hardships and in times of crisis. That's what I wanted to share. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Jazakumullah khair, Dr. Yamina. And inshallah, Ramadan will be that time where we are doing that training of opening and surrendering, instead of panicking about the fact that things are out of our control, to kind of realizing that this is actually nothing to be threatened about, because things are out of our control, but somebody powerful and compassionate is in control. Inshallah. Are there any other comments, questions?
I like the imagery of like the choice. Like the choice seems to be something that we need to do earlier on to be in that state. Like if we did not choose that, like if we're not choosing this choice and making that effort. So the choice is the amana. I always keep like coming back to what is the amana, like the word that Allah gave this amana, this trust, and asked mountains and like in the universe to take the trust, and they said no way, and human beings accepted this trust. Little did they know how challenging it was, the lumen, and they like transgressed a lot against themselves by taking it. But it's that trust that makes them dignified human beings, which is the trust of choice. And it's interesting, like on Sarah, when you're speaking, like when you say, because you've been on that journey with your brother, like for a while, that, you know, that that choice, to make the choice to surrender, then although there was like, you know, that, you know, although the first reaction was with panic, but then all of a sudden that, you know, the fruits of that choice coming in, and not only to you, come to the whole household when like a serene surrender comes to everyone. So so subhanallah, so working on that choice again becomes being a doer becomes a homework. Bismillah.
I'm just going to add, yeah, it's so beautiful and it's so true, because what Sister Yamina just said, that ayah, sanuyassiruhu lil yusra, like when we start doing the homework, which is the prayer in action form, that we're actually going to try to cultivate. Because I would always be like, how do we stay in a state of remembrance? We always forget. And I would attend halakas, but throughout the day I would just be very reactionary. And then the homework is actually listening to this, listening to our breathing and quieting everything down, just to almost like acknowledge existence of who we really are and what's really happening. And it just, sanuyassiruhu lil yusra is very true for Maha's question as well, because it was brought onto us, like the whole awareness. And even like for me throughout the day, I'll get a reminder all of a sudden, like, don't. And then I'll just hear the reminder and be like, oh, alhamdulillah, like, because I'm just doing the prayer of the morning meditation of listening to the breathing and feeling that sense of gratitude that everything's being taken care of. And really, for me, it just started off with seeing the space inside. And I would say, oh, I'm just like observing my breathing, but really it was more than breathing. It was through breath that I witness there's like a living something inside that I'm watching now. And almost like an outer body, it's starting to pull you into this outer body consciousness. And then, so anyways, Sunu Yasiru Yusra is true, because throughout the day I'll feel it. Even when my brother passed, which is probably the greatest calamity thus far, I've also felt that reminder come onto me and just put me, I just felt like an invitation to a state of surrender that was easy for me, alhamdulillah.
Thank you. Jazakumullah khair, Sarah, for sharing. Are there any other comments or questions? Okay, then in that case, we will inshallah turn to our second guest speaker for today, Brother Faraz. Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. In all honesty, I feel all that I've listened to is so much to nourish me for so much, and feels like it will be overload to say anything more. Alhamdulillah, thanks to God. I am really thankful for everyone's comments and reminders, and Sarah for sharing with us your experience and how the Quran's guidance was so helpful for you, and it's inspiring example for us who are also surrounded with the same transience and death, not realizing often. I think what I have to share is simply emphasizing in a way what Sarah has already said, and so inshallah it will be a similar reminders that I am for now finding useful for myself. And the question that I was thinking about, as we do, I think, how do I find myself close to God? Where is God? And how do I find myself aligned, connected, in peace, at peace? And so with this need, I search a bit randomly, but in the Quran to see what it is telling me. So I will also be sharing a few verses that I find that I am going to, or in my mind, they are sort of connected in a way, so that take me from point A to point B, and that's what I hope to share briefly. I want to start by verse 50, chapter 50, verse 16. I think it's Surah Qaf. It says, لقد خلقنا الإنسان ونعلم ما توسوس به نفسه وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. It's a quite well-known verse. It says, verily, we are the ones who created human being, and we know what his nafs whispers within him, for we are closer to him than his neck vein. Very close, the Quran verse says. Of course, every verse is really very rich. I'm not going to call it an ocean because it will be. I didn't find the depth yet of verses, but it is certainly very rich. We can only just focus on this verse and come to thinking about how I can feel this closeness of this. Sarah talked about beautifully this dependence of my every moment of my existence is not the circulation of the blood or the veins. And so, closer than that, which seems to me the immediate cause, much more fundamental, is the life giver, the sustainer. And let's just say, and so I can feel here that the Quran is telling me, or trying to tell me, that look, your maker, I'm your maker. I know what you want, what you need, and you are looking for me, and I'm very close to you, very, very close to you, more than your veins that you think are so crucial for your life to continue. All right, so since we are moving on, so I apologize to the verse for leaving it very prematurely, but then we come to verse 214 of chapter 2, Surah Baqarah, verse 214. And there I try to find myself, and the verse says, Am hasibtum an tadkhulu al-jannah ولما يأتكم مثل الذين خلوا من قبلكم مستهم البأساء والضراء والزلزلوا حتى يقول الرسول والذين آمنوا معه متى نصر الله ألا إن نصر الله قريب. English translation, if I say, do you think that you enter paradise, al-Jannah, garden, which I will understand as this being in peace with this lasting mercy and goodness, is what I seek. And not has come to you the like of what came to those before you. Or not will come to you the like of what came to those before you. What is it? So, massatumul ba'sa wa dharra, misfortune, hardship, afflicted them, befell upon them. And they shook, wazulzilu. I'm taking from Asad's translation. I'm not a native Arabic speaker, but wazulzilu, they shook. Hatta yaqul al-rasul, so that, or until, the messenger and those who want security, who believe, who want that Jannah, enter the Jannah, that reserve, they say, when is, or where is God's help, or when is God's help going to come? And the verse ends by saying, Allah inna nasrullahi qareeb. God's help is near. And this, like the previous verse, I was saying that I want to be with this sustainer, with this maker, my God, and I want to be in paradise. Here in this verse, it's, I want to be in this place in which I find God with me, because he is very near. The verse, the previous, I said, he's closer to me. So how do I enter this paradise? How do I come to his presence? How I, in the words of, I guess we are using, how do I come to feel this, realize this, be conscious of this, be aware of this, that this is how do I come to enter paradise? And I'm looking for help. And the verse says, the messenger says this, where is the help? So I want to come back to this verse at the end. I will just point your attention to it, that don't forget what the messenger said. The messenger and those who believe say, they say, Mata Nasrullah. This is put in the mouth of the messenger by this verse. And then it says, Allah inna nasrallahi qareeb. So how do I find myself with my maker? And I want to take a brief, quick journey, because one way the Quran presents to us what we can reflect on to answer our doubts about the meeting with our Maker, which extends to eternity, but starts here. Where is my Maker? How can I be with him? So I want to read a few verses from chapter 50. I thought I had the numbers here, but I don't. But they are one of the initial verses. I think starts with verse 3rd or 4th. And it says, أَإِذَا مِتْنَا وَكُنَّا تُرَابًا. It says, why after we have died? So this starts with, like you will see, go to them doubting this return to the Maker. Why after we have died and become mere dust? ذَلِكَ رَجْعٌ بَعِيدٌ. And one translation I read says, this seems a far-fetched idea. But I think I asked one of my friends here that it is also not excluded here to say that this return is something far away, not here, not now. I don't see it. I don't feel return. I don't find myself returning as if. And the second verse kind of tells me, I understand you. قد علمنا ما تنقص الأرض. Well, do we know how the earth consumes you, how it, so I understand تنقص الأرض here is all the wear and tear and the passing and dying we see. So all of this is going. What return? Everything is gone. It's going. And it says, وَعِنْدَنَا كِتَابٌ حَفِيظٌ. No, it is actually preserved, protected, and then it proceeds to give me some things to consider. It calls them tabsira and dhikr in the later verse. But let me read just quickly. It says, بَلْ كَذَّبُوا بِالْحَقِّ. But they give a lie to truth. لَمَّا جَاءُهُمْ. When it comes to them. فَهُمْ فِي أَمْرٍ مَرِيجٍ. No, they are confused. So it says, no, this is not actually true. What the naqsu, what the tanqusul ard is there, I understand, but this is actually not the truth of the matter. Then it starts talking to me. Afalam. So I find it very nice when I'm talking to the Quran because it really speaks back, or rather it speaks. So asks me questions, very direct questions. أَفَلَمْ يَنْظُرُوا إِلَى السَّمَاءِ فَوْقَهُمْ. Sorry, I heard a noise. Is there some?
Can you remind the verse number?
This is chapter 50, Surah Qaf. Let me look up. I'm sorry, I didn't paste.
I think it's 6 now.
Thank you. Verse 6 now. So we are going from roughly 3 or 4 to maybe 11 or 12, Surah chapter 50, roughly. Okay. So if you, sorry, I should have had the number. I apologize. So it says, أَفَلَمْ يَنْظُرُوا إِلَى السَّمَاءِ فَوْقَهُمْ كَيْفَ بَنَيْنَاهَا وَزَيَّنَهَا وَمَا لَهَا مِنْ فُرُوجٍ وَالْأَرْضَ مَدَدْنَاهَا وَأَلْقَيْنَا فِيهَا رَوَاسِيَ وَأَنْبَتْنَا فِيهَا مِنْ كُلِّ زَوْجٍ بَهِيجٍ. And then stops to say تَبْصِرَةً وَذِكْرَى لِكُلِّ عَبْدٍ مُنِيبٍ. I will just underline Munib here. Abd Munib. Abd is everyone. And this is the dhikr for Abd Munib, the one who turns to God. And this will be important for it's important for me to understand what the Quran is saying about how do you enter paradise, how do you find God near. Same along the same lines Sarah has already talked about, just another way of saying. Is it when not, and so these are verses that are asking us to go look, which we can't do right now, but may God give us um, the time and the patience to actually go and look, and so we can come back to the verse and then and answer and say, you know what you said, yeah, I saw that, I see that, you have a point. Well, it's very interesting now. وَنَزَّلْنَا مِنَ السَّمَاءِ مَاءً مُبَارَكًا. So it's very interesting. مَاءً مُبَارَكًا فَأَنبَتْنَا بِهِ جَنَّاتٍ. You know, in the Baqarah verse it says, you want to tadkhilul jannah. So here it says, okay, فَأَنبَتْنَا بِهِ جَنَّاتٍ وَحَبَّ الْحَسِيدِ. You can read the translations. When we send down from the skies water, blessed water, and cause thereby gardens to grow and fields of grain. So, of course, we can keep thinking about how connected we are to all of this, how they are very much tied to our benefit, our provision, helping us live, helping us enjoy, find satisfaction, etc. How we would suffer without any of these. That's for us to think about. وَالنَّخْلَ بَاسِقَاتٍ لَهَا طَلْعٌ نَضِيدٌ. Tall palm trees and thickly clustered dates. And then summarizes, kind of like why I'm mentioning these. Just I mentioned a few things. Why? رِزْقًا لِلْعِبَادِ. Do I not see this is rizq for me? وَأَحْيَيْنَا بِهِ بَلْدَةً مَيَّةً كَذَلِكَ الْخُرُوجِ. So it says, and with this water we bring, as a sustenance apportioned for the servants, and with this we bring dead land to life. This is important for me because it is a sign, the deadness of my heart is like the deadness of this earth. And with this Ma'an Mubarakan, this dead land, literally the dead land, with this rain that is now actually the water being sent down in Philadelphia here where I'm sitting, Baldatin Mayyatan, and then says, كَذَلِكَ الْخُرُوجِ. So I wonder how will be the coming forth? How is the return? How is something dead? How will it find life where it is being brought to life? This is how the khuruj will be, or is, if you may. Okay, these are the ayat that the Quran gives me to reflect on. This is tied, if you see the larger, it is trying to be sure of the meeting with my Lord, liqa Rabbi. And this is the question for me, if I can find that that the meeting of my Lord is real, is possible, I can feel it, experience it, then I can be sure of the meeting of my Lord as I am passing, and I'm sure that everything that's passing is meeting with their Lord. they remain rather with their Lord, as Sarah mentioned the verse. They do not die, but they're alive. So these are the verses for me to contemplate. The Quran gives. Now I quickly come to the two verses that I want to focus on, but I've already, so there is two verses as Baqarah 186 and chapter 9 verse 99. So 2:186 says, is sa'alaka ibadi anni fa inni qareeb. And if my servants ask you about me, in brackets, tell them, or behold, I am near. And how? And so here I am going to, the verse about the jugular vein, the neck vein, he's very close. Now, here I am now finding something more. It says, and this is to me like the loot from this verse for me that I'm sharing. This is very important for me because here is for me my answer, and it's already Sarah has said, but here is the verse for me that gives me really the what am I going to do with my choice that is going to make in my life the God who is near, I can feel near him. It says, Ujibu da'wa ad-da'i idha da'an. It's beautiful. It addresses choice. It reads, I respond to the call of him who calls when he calls, or if he calls. Ujibu da'wa ad-da'i idha da'an. And then, interestingly, says, فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا. Respond to me. But he just said, I respond to the one who da'a. But then says, but you respond to me. وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. And it is interesting to me why my Lord says, I respond to him. After he has said, he responds to me. Now, at this moment, I just remind you to go back to what I said at the very beginning of the 214, the verse 214 of Baqarah. I'll read it again. It said, أَمْ حَسِبْتُمْ أَن تَدْخُلُوا الْجَنَّةَ لَمَّا يَأْتِكُم مَّثْلُ الَّذِينَ خَلَوْا مِن قَبْلِكُمْ مَسَّتْهُمُ الْبَأْسَاءُ وَالضَّرَّاءُ وَزُلْزِلُوا. Okay, this part of the verse, I understand all of the turmoil, abandonment, everything that shakes us before we are heard the words of the messenger. This is our situation before we are entered Jannah, but we want to enter Jannah. We want to get to the place of peace, find God near. حتى يقول الرسول والذين آمنوا معه متى نصر الله. Now, and then it says, إلى ألا إن نصر الله قريب. Now, to me, there is an indication to me here that what inside me says, Mata Nasrullah. The Quran says it's a messenger. If you go back to 2:186, what I think the Quran is teaching me is you have already been called. You have been called because the messenger in you has called out. Where is the help of God? This is, to me, the verse is telling me what Receiving Nur people, people who attend discussions are very familiar with. Dr. Yamina emphasizes a lot the need in us for help, any kind of help, the need for something is an ayah, is the messenger. This messenger that is given to us already, we find in us, already says, where is God's help? Where is the one who can meet my need? Who can address me? Who can help me? And so the verse, I think, into 186, فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا, so that when you are actually calling to God, what you're actually doing is you're responding to the call of the messenger of God in you. Where is God's help? That is my call, already called you. You've already been called. And you respond by turning to me for the meeting of that need which is from me. In this way, you find security with me, you find yourself guided, you find yourself with me. And this in verse 999, I think Surah Tawbah, verse 99, I will read. وَمِنَ الْأَعْرَابِ مَنْ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. And this is to me, here more, I want to emphasize. وَيَتَّخِذَ مَا يُنْفِقُ قَرُبَاتٍ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ وَالصَّلَوَاتِ الرَّسُولِ أَلَا إِنَّهَا قُرْبَةً لَهُمْ سَيَدْخِلُهُمُ اللَّهِ فِي رَحْمَتِهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. And let's not get distracted by the Arab. It is we, if anyone who believes and wants to believe and in the meeting with the Lord in the Yawm al-Akhir, what does this person do? يَتَّخِذَ مَا يُنْفِقُ قُرَبَاتِ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. So what you spend, again, what you consume, what you do, يُنْفِقُ, whatever I do. You can think of examples, you can mention. It is a means of drawing nearer to God. So that what I do, normally what I'm doing, I'm going about trying to, meet some sort of need, either mine or somebody else's. So I thought maybe I could use the idea of care and compassion. Let's say I spend compassion on others and I care for others, I care about others. Let's say I spend this. What this person who believes does, وَيَتَّخِذُ مَا يُنْفِقُ قُرْبَاتٍ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. So how the previous verse says, because I will say I need to care for this person and I turn to you. You are the one who gives me the care with which I care about this person. You are my need for care. I turn to you. I respond. I ask you, I need this care. My need asks you rather. And you respond by giving me this. And when I see you responding, you as the mujib, as the one answering, then I find you qareeb. That's how uh, I find I can find the Quran says God near as the one who is answering the needs that he has put there as messengers that call to him. And as Sarah has very beautifully said, I am just observing this need calling to the one who fulfills it. And this brings me in the presence of the one who's fulfilling it. So now I'm with him. This is my return to him. This is my إذا دعان, and I find my God, Qareeb, as the answerer, as the one who responds to the call of the messenger. And what happens? سيدخلهم الله, this is verse 999, في رحمته. So I use the word care and compassion because, for example, I might think I am being compassionate, and now what happens? I enter as if I wasn't in there. So there is this, you enter something you were not in, and now God, He admits, makes us enter into His rahmah, the rahmah that I had been simply consuming and using as my own or as no one's. And it says, Inna Allah Ghafoor, he mentions, because after realizing my mistake, my first response is kind of despair of my stupidity, and says, okay, don't worry, I can erase that. Don't focus on that. Inna Allah Ghafoor, you find God Ghafoor, Rahim. So now, now you are with the Rahim. And so now find yourself entering the gardens of your Lord after having been afflicted. Now enter the garden, return to your Lord, find yourself with your Lord, the compassionate. Find in Sarah's example, much also very much more, I guess, closer, or life giver. Find the life giver as you live. Be near the life giver, and you will not find yourself abandoned by life. And I think I want to just end by saying that sometimes, or perhaps all the time, for me at least, I have been, without the Quran's guidance, I find people and find myself thinking that I really want to find God, and I'm going to now go on a big, difficult, long journey, and I'm going to find him. Where is he? I really need to find him. I need to do something really difficult and heroic, and and people go from one place to another, and one kind of they knock all kinds of doors, and people struggle a lot to say, how can I feel close to God? How can I feel close to God? What do I need to do? And the analogy that I apologize for those for whom this analogy will be a put off and not work, but just take it as a limited analogy. If you're trying to find someone in a hide and seek game, and everyone's hiding, and you're going to have to work a lot, and you don't find them anywhere. Most of the places, they are not the ones you're looking for, and you have to now go and pick up different stones and rocks and look at everywhere, and maybe go on a long journey somewhere to find. And what I find, the Quran's teaching, what I find is, you are not going to find God. You will be found by him. And what you need to do is to do that very little, so that you will be found by him. And how you will be found by him, because he's already there, is to make yourself aware that your needs are from him. All that you in you that is crying for help is a messenger from him. And just become aware of this. And then when you turn to him, when you respond to him, this call of the messenger, when you turn to him, when you turn your needs to him, which you are already meeting, you are breathing, you are, the needs are already being met, you are drinking water, you are smiling, you are sharing, a joke, you are walking, you are concerned about the health of your mother, you're sad about the death of your brother. All of this already you are provided for. Just see how he is, see him responding. Turn these your calls to him, not to other things, as Sarah mentioned. Shirk makes it me disconnect from this. So take it to him, what you're already. So when you are sad about death, so see that he puts it there so that you can know that he wants to give you life and togetherness and health. So now, these use these to turn to him and find him responding. In this, when you find him responding to your need, and Dr. Yamina, emphasizes, when you find Rab, that's how you find yourself near the one who is already near, but you are going to do something to be found by him, which is to stop turning to other things for the fulfillment of your need, thinking that other things are fulfilling them, and just find him fulfilling them, because those things can't fulfill them. As the verses ask us to reflect on the water being sent down and things, who can meet the needs of all these beings, but they are being met by this one who brings life out of death and tells us that this is how it is and will be. So inshallah, my prayer is that we are able to live with this consciousness that Sarah shared with us from the verses of the Quran, and what the verses or the signs of the Quran ask us to reflect and address our questions about our need that is in us for entering Jannah, and tells us how I can find myself being admitted into the rahmah of my Lord, and find myself near him and find him near me. As he says, he is already near. I need to do something, direct my da'ah to him. So hopefully I did not confuse the matter, and inshallah, I guess emphasize that whatever Sarah shared in the beginning really is the heart of the matter, and what I've just, I think, shared is maybe emphasizing or highlighting certain things in what she said. So there's a lot of things to reflect on. So I thank you for your patience, and may God be our light and our guide, and peace and blessings of God be with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jazakumullah khair, Faraz. Are there any comments, questions?
Maybe a comment. Thank you, Faraz. Assalamu alaikum. So the analogy at the end, I felt maybe it's like since the false claims of the eye are really the veil, the obstacle that makes us not find ourselves close to God. It's like we are hiding from him in reality. Also the ayah 186 of Surah Al-Baqarah, وَإِذَا سألك عبادي عني فإني قريب أجيب دعوة الداع. The first part seems to be, and the way it proceeds, the ayah proceeds clearly. The one who is speaking knows us. This is because this is how we created. These are the steps we go through. So in the beginning, it seems to us like I am praying to God. He is answering my call. He is meeting my need. So in the first step, it seems like it's my need. I want something. I need something. And I call on to God. I ask from God. And he answers my call. He meets my need. And that's what the first one is saying. Yes, he's the one. He's very close to you. And he answers your need. But then it says, فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي. Then you say, as Faraz said, like, what's going on here? Like, you were the one answering my need. How can I respond to you? But if I am sincere in the first part, and I realize again and again that I am praying and my prayer is answered, then the next step is to start knowing my Rabb, knowing God as the one who answers. And if I am present with that answering, when I pray, then I will have no doubt, because usually we're stuck in step one because we are always anxious. Will my prayer be accepted? We have doubts. But if we surrender in that few times, my prayer is answered. And sometimes we don't even articulate the need, and lo and behold, it is answered. Then when there is sincerity in the sense that we are present with that deep down inside us, that knowing that I'm not doing anything actually, I'm just expressing the need, then we start praying with no doubt. And we realize that actually I am made to seek help. In fact, I found the need in me. So it's not really my need. I just found it in me. The need is put in me. And I am made conscious of my need. I have other needs that you realize sometimes after many years, say, oh, I always had that need. I was not even aware of it. And so I am being made aware of it is also not from me. And I am made to want that need to be met. How would I know? Like I could be in a state of being that I have a need and I'm aware of it, and I don't know that I want it to be met. Like when it's met, I will feel better. Why do I feel better? I found it in me. That's how I am. So all these things, the I starts receding. It starts melting. And as the I recedes or melts, because it's an illusion anyways, when I am present, those illusions starts melting, going away, and I realize there is only the he in the beginning, and that he becomes a thou and ta. And then I have that certainty that he is the answerer to all needs. And how do I know? He is the one who gave me the need in order to make me ask him so that I know him. So the need is only a means to get to know him as the provider, the helper, the loving, the merciful, the knowing, so I get to know him. And that's what I truly, truly need. And the other needs are all to awake that deeper need, that purpose of my being here on earth, to so that I become conscious of it, become aware of it. And that's when our iman in God, فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي لَعَلَّهُمْ يُرْشَدُونَ. So that iman starts increasing in me, because, and this is an iman, you have that belief, that certainty, you start knowing him, and you realize that as I start responding in this way, then there is iman, then we are, inshallah, guided onto him, guided on that path, the straight path that leads to happiness and fulfillment in this world and in the next, inshallah. Just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you. Jazakallah khair, Dr. Yamina, for sharing that. Are there any comments, questions?
I like the imagery. I always like imagery. So like, thank you, Faraz. I like how you connected them together. And Jazakallah khair, Sister Yamina. So the hide and seek game thing, that you're looking for something. So like it's like as if you're looking for, like, the sun, and you're looking for the sun with your eyes closed, like, in like, going underground somewhere to look for the sun with your eyes closed. And all what it takes is to decide to open up your eyes. So that's like, so it's like, it's there, like God is there, just to see that he's there to be found. Jazakumullah kull khair. I love how
that opening the eyes is not easy, because the eye wants to say, I found God.
Subhanallah. Subhanallah. And it's beautiful how both of your talks like complemented each other. Subhanallah. What a gift. Jazakallah khair.
And it's interesting that in all of the verses that were shared, the Quran acknowledges that we start there, or we oftentimes find ourselves there where we think it's missing, right? I mean, the verse in 50:16 started with وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ وَنَعْلَمُ مَا تُوَسْوِسُ بِهِ نَفْسُهُ. We created the human being, so we know what thoughts and delusions are whispering into him. And so and then it assures in response, we are closer to than your neck vein, when the prophets and then human heart asks, where is the help? Or in Surah Baqarah 186, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي, when they ask, my servants ask you about me, in that asking, there is already being lost. Where's God? I don't see. Where's God? Where is he? And then it says, well, I am close. So in all these questions, Meta Nasrullah, and God, we're asking about God, where is he? The answer, it acknowledges that we do find ourselves very often in that state of not being aware and feeling distant, and even as the Quranic passages keep saying that we are close to you. And how do we get to seeing that closeness? It isn't about we working hard. It's about we letting go of that veil and seeing that my need. I mean, I don't want to summarize everything that was said, but that was very helpful and interesting for me.
And as a first step, it's actually there is wisdom in that, because if I always felt help is there, I would not appreciate the help and the helper. If I was always aware that God is near, I would not appreciate what it means truly. So because we learn through that lack and that contrast. But the problem is we tend to stay there forever. That's our issue, I think. So let's pray that we move on quickly, and we have to make the decision to let go of those false illusions and delusions, see them for what they are, and decide to let go. It just doesn't, that's where our doing is. It's an inner doing. It's that decision. Because unless we make that decision, we are actively holding onto those illusions. And when we decide we're not going to hold, then lo and behold, the truth is all there. As Alia said, just open your eyes, the eye sees anyway. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you. Thank you. And what is striking, I feel like I'm still fully not there, but it was very striking to hear Faraz's reflection on Surah 9, verse 99. I have always read that verse about, they believe in God and last day, and they regard what they spend as, nearness, closeness to God, as, you're almost like a kind of very simplistic image of, I'm giving this, and that I'm giving it for God, so it's going to take me closer to God, almost kind of an offering. That's the kind of simple way I used to read it. And in this reflection, it's saying that as the person is giving, whatever it's that they're spending, whether it's charity, whether it's compassion, whatever it's that they're spending, they regarded, that the word يتخذ ما ينفق قربات. Their perception of what they're doing is the kind of the key thing. I used to think it's more about being able to give something and not being selfish. That's definitely there as well. But to see what you're giving as, that's how you consider this. This is my closeness, getting near to God. And how to get near to God? Through in the act of giving. Coming back to the idea, I think what I gather from it is coming back to the idea of I'm not a doer, right? I care about this person, and I find myself sharing something. I find myself being a channel of compassion. And in that moment, there's one way to see it, is that something is going from me to the other person. I'm losing something. That's one way to see it. And one way to see it is I'm so amazing, that I'm so loving, so caring, as if I am the source. And then the other way, that's mentioned in the verse, the people who believe in God and last day, in them, they, as they're giving, they see it as coming through them. And then you realize he is closer to me than my neck vein. He's the one who's heeding the call of the person who is in need. He is the one who's helping that through me. And then you find God close, because if has his glimpse of his compassion is passing through you to the other person, that means he is near you. He's with you. He's present with you. So then that is a kind of a very, I had never thought of it that way. And the verse goes on to say, yes, it is definitely, it says, ويتخذ ما ينفق قربات عند الله وصلوات الرسول ألا إنها قربة لهم. Definitely, it is nearness for them, and God will make them enter His rahmah and His forgiving. So that to regard what you give as being closeness, nearness to God.
Make it a means. To make it like it's an opportunity, you make it.
I remember, Yamina, one time we were driving together, and we had an appointment to be somewhere. I forgot where was the destination appointment, but we were driving through downtown, and this lady was either jogging or something, but then her ankle sprinted, and we sort of drove through by her, and then all of a sudden, I just found myself turning, the wheel and stop, and going the other way. And Yamina was like, "What is going on? There were we're going this way. Why are we doing a U-turn?" And then we stopped, and she was really in need of help, and I think we took her to the hospital, Yamina. And on her way, she was in tears, and she was, telling us that someone made fun of her as she fell or something like that. But then you realize, and then here we are, we the steering wheel of the car moved, you don't see yourself doing it. And then you realize, like, you were there at that second to be there and to help her because she needed to go to the hospital. And, and that's all what we did. And the hospital wasn't far away from where we were going anyway, but to see ourselves being put there at this moment to do this and be pushed to do this is that closeness. Like, at the time you just say, oh, subhanallah, but to realize that, to witness it and taste it more would be like to say, oh, like I've now had a taste of, of being, of the caregiver taken care of. And that then takes me to, then I also will be taken care of, like that trust. So, jazakumullah khair, everyone.
So God is in that situation. God is close to you, and God is close to her. Is there anyone else who would like to comment? Please in chat box messages. It would be great if you could talk.
Yeah, I have a question to Faraz and to all of you, actually. Faraz's emphasis on being found rather than embarking on this dramatic journey to find God makes me wonder if the trick is in the art and the science of being found. So how do you get found? And I'm asking experientially, and if this is where, if this whole conflict between experiencing the nearness of God indeed lies in being found and in allowing oneself to be found, because being found can come across as being passive and just doing nothing. So could you clarify?
I'll just respond quickly, because the example that I just gave, I felt being found, like I was being found by God, I was found to have these emotions channeled through me. So like I was driving, I had a destination, we had a deadline, we had a place to go. I was not just wandering, I surprised Yamina doing a sharp U-turn. So I was being found in that moment, like I all of this got channeled through me at that moment. So I can take credit and say, oh, I've got such a big heart, I didn't, or I can realize I was found and I was chosen to have that need to help channeled through me. That's how I understand.
But Alia, you were not in a place of need. You were helping somebody.
I had a need to stop. Like I could not have kept driving. It would
but
have.
Keep yourself. I want to challenge you to give me the scenario of the jogger, the lady who was jogging. She was in the place of need. So how do we talk to her? Or if you were in her place, how are you found? How do you talk yourself into relaxing to being found? Because it's a sensitive moment between panic and
but she experienced that through like someone who doesn't even look like her stopping by and and being there when she needed, like, so also she was found. I think both of us were found. Faraz, maybe you can explain better.
I doubt it. I don't think so. But so there's two ways to do this: either to make analogies, like multiply examples, to that that talk about being found, or we can just not think of examples and talk maybe more abstractly about what is being said is nothing more to me than everything that I am quote unquote doing, I will continue to do. When you get hungry, you will go and cook food. When you feel lonely, you will call a friend. uh, there is no change that to me revelation brings, necessarily to this aspect of human being, um, in terms of passivity and activity. The passivity and activity is in at the level of meaning. Will I give a meaning of my own making and of my own imagination to existence, or will I take the meaning of existence as I'm experiencing it myself or others, everything around it? Will I take that meaning from the maker of that existence? So once I say, no, I actually need to receive the meaning of this existence, because the meaning I give to it brings me stress, and you know, I have to take care of my needs at the level of meaning. Of course, if I want groceries, I still need to go and shop. Uh, but when I go and shop for groceries, when I find myself with the need of shopping or need of buying something that what meaning do I give to it? Uh, this is the level at which revelation transforms me, because it says the burden for you is not actually physically going to the store. The burden is you don't know what that means. You find yourself annoyed by feeling the need to feed yourself, for example. You might find yourself not able to, for example, feed yourself too much, or find yourself tired again and again. But what is this need? And what bothers you, or me at least, is what meaning does it have? Um, and this is the level at which I passively ask, having run myself into the ground, really, for myself, I can speak, trying to meet my needs for meaning. Uh, I turn passively to my maker and say, you know what? I am in big trouble. And I'm making a light example, but Sarah gave a very weighty example. Here's my brother. He has passed away. I loved him. Uh, what is the meaning of this? Uh, so uh, I will ask my maker for the meaning. And he says, when I turn to him, what I shared was, he says, look, you are someone who finds himself with need. And I'm going to tell you that that need in you that calls for help is actually a messenger calling for help. It's my messenger. I sent him. This is my messenger calling for that help. It's not you. There's the meaning of you calling for help. The Quran is, in other words, saying, is what you can understand, again, at the level of meaning. Yeah, you are still the one experiencing that need, but the meaning of that need is that the messenger is calling. And once you see this, you will simply, the same need, you will see it as a call, as a response to that call, by turning uh, the meaning of meeting that need into, not that this need was met by water, or that my need for companionship was met by my friend, but rather it is the one who gave me this need is the one meeting this need now, here and now. And that is, to me, is to find him near. He's already near, he says. So I need to do my part now. So what will I do? So I will call unto him for the needs that I'm already fulfilling, but imagining or not realizing that I am thinking that when I called a friend and they spoke to me, the comfort that came to me from it, that conversation, is somehow, we don't say it because it's so ridiculous, but somehow we assumed the conversation itself was the source of that comfort, or the friend was the source of that comfort. And I was the source of the need. I distribute things to different things, but The Quran is saying, no, 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 your need was from me. And the comfort you got by calling your friend and speaking to them was me meeting that need. Now, do you not find myself as someone who comforts you and gives care to you? In this experience, you can find me there. I will be there. I am there. If you think this way under Revelation's guidance, you will find me there. So uh, it I hope that helps, or if it doesn't help, I apologize for my
No, I think it was very clear, Faraz. Thank you. And but I think there are two aspects here. One is the one you emphasized a little more, which is usually we get stuck into, for instance, if I'm lonely and I speak with someone and they entertain me or something and I feel comfort, and without realizing, without actually stating it, it feels like that conversation, that person, whatever happened, is the source of the comfort. There is the other one, which I feel maybe Maha is question is related to, which is the need. And you said the need is the messenger. I find the need in me, but when we are not present, when we don't have that consciousness, that ihsan, then it feels like it's my need. And the moment I experience it as my need, it becomes a source of distress and panic. Because if it is my need, then somehow I have to work hard to take care of it. Even when I'm asking God, I'm asking in a state of panic, in a state of restlessness, in a state of not being sure, this is my need. Will He take me seriously and take care of my need or not? But with the moment I see that need is from Him, as Imam Nursi rahimahullah says, had he not wanted to answer your need, He wouldn't have given you that need. So the need itself is the warranty. It is the sign, the evidence, the warranty that He is the one who takes care of my need. That knowing, that consciousness brings a lots of peace, and it becomes easier to be patient. Remember, Sarah, the verses she shared, I think it was in Surah Al-An'am, it was more all about be patient, be steadfast. That patience, we will find it when we are in a state of yes, this is a messenger from you. There is that detachment, that space, that distance that gives us a new perspective, rather than when I am in the need feels like a pit, and it feels like I am drowned into it, and I am almost like it's choking me, and I can't get out of it. And how am I going to do it? But when the need is a messenger, suddenly you say, welcome, assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. What is your message to me? And then it becomes a friend, it becomes a teacher, it becomes like in hardship, it becomes like Al-Khidr, the prophet, that the messenger that came and taught Musa alayhi salam. And so it becomes a very rewarding experience, inshallah.
Jazakumullah khair. That's really the crux. Thank you so much. I remember I was looking at some notes from a previous halaqah, and there it was saying that even if we are in that in one of those two ways of missing the point, as you mentioned, Dr. Yamina, especially the second way, it feels like it's my need. Now I have to kind of convince God to help me in here. He may or he may not, depending on whether He would like to help me in this or not. And it's kind of this unsure position. If I'm praying out of that space, then it's not helpful either way, even if I get what I need or not. If I get what I need, I say, okay, God was forthcoming, so-called. You know, He gave me what I need this time. Let's see what He's going to do next time. So it's still not fulfilling. Even if I asked for a car and I got the car, I asked for a friend and I got a friend, still, you know. it's because I'm coming out of that disconnected state where I don't see the need as a messenger. I see it's my need, and then I try to convince God to help me with my need, as it were. And if it is not met, then I say, well, he doesn't always care, or he doesn't always help. So then that's another kind of moment of being disappointed and meaninglessness. So to come out of this lose-lose situation, we need to change the way we look at prayer, and we look at our needs and meeting of our needs, and that's where the nearness unto God will unfold to us, inshallah. Are there any comments? Any other comments? I know we're closing. We're drawing close to our end.
I wanted to just quickly add something too that came to me about that ties in together. First of all, like Faraz, mashallah, I love the journey of the ayats that were presented, and the connections, mashallah, are very beautiful. Maha, I love your question too. And I'm going to go back to the homework of the breathing, because breathing is just the easiest and quickest way to come to this change of perception, or this alignment, or this opening of this shift. Because if we actually take the time to listen to our breathing and watch our breathing, I can have a different insight, because I saw the transition of a breathing person to a non-breathing person several times, and the last time it was someone who was very close to me. But breathing is the easiest and quickest way in all meditative practices, regardless of the guidance of the Quran, because it's the key for La ilaha. There's no claim that I'm doing something when I'm breathing. It's just rising and coming and going, and I don't know how it's happening, but it's happening unto me. So coming back to this breathing and making it a practice of witnessing is just the way to start cultivating this lens of, or empowering or feeding this witnesser, because this witnesser is like this small being that's so silent because there's so much noise overpowering everything all the time. But when we start listening to the breathing, as it's the quickest and most potent need, like Sister Yamina says, it's the greatest need, because without it, a few minutes, that's it. There's no more existence. There's no false claim that when we listen to the breathing, and then if I don't listen to the breathing, then I think I exist, I have thoughts, I have needs, I need this, I do this. And there's no more opportunity for the observer or the witness to see. And I think it connects to the ayah 58, ayah number 8, verse 8 in Surah Qaf that Faraz shared. What came to me was, it says, tabsira wa dhikra, some sort of seeing with remembrance. It's a different kind of seeing now, but it's only when we're in this state, which the Quran calls likulli abdin munib, for the needy one who's actually munib. I'm not even going to attempt to translate that, because this conversation today has been about seeing through our being and not thinking that we're the actual doers. And only when we're in that state of being, then we are given this tabsira wa dhikra. Like when I saw that my brother was no longer breathing, and literally like the being that I was just with yesterday is now just a body, and no breath that I gave him was entering him. Like, so there was nothing I could do, though trying madly to give him breath. He was not breathing. And then medics came for an extra hour to attempt more breath, and there was no breathing happening. All of a sudden, this incredible presence of La ilaha just swept our whole house. Like nobody has any power or authority. None of us can do anything. But it was a peaceful presence. We call that surrendering, but really what the Quran says is La ilaha. And that's without that first part of it, without like nurturing that, like we have to charge that, like, you know, you plug in a charger. And I'm seeing that the meditations of watching my breathing have really helped me see from that space. That's all.
جزاك خير سارة.
Okay, so thank you. Faraz wrote something down. Did you want to say anything, a last comment, Faraz?
Well, no, thank you very much for everyone's patience. There is a lot worth discussing. Of course, this all seems very quick and, you know, very, inshallah, whoever was able to benefited. But just wanted to acknowledge Naima. Thank you for your comment about this. You know, Naima made a comment about finding God and God finding us is comes together. It's not two separate things, and it's an alignment, and that's right. I agree with that. Now, Huda had a question: what if the need can't be met? That's of course a very, very important question, and what I would simply like to say that because of lack of time, this what I simply just want to note is that it is not the case for me that I find God merciful with me without answering this question, without having a satisfactory meaning for unmet needs. It is not possible for me to be truly at peace and grateful to this God who, quote unquote, doesn't meet some needs. Apparently, yes. And my response for myself is to really, again, to say the Quran I listen to find meaning for existence. And when I do find that meaning that it gives to existence more satisfactory than the meaning I give to existence, then I say, yes, you are right. I'm going to follow you. I'm going to take this meaning of existence. So I have a meaning for my unmet need, surely. Just like anyone else, when I don't get what I want, my heart is like that child who doesn't get the toy it wants and just cries. My heart, you know, is like that. It's just constantly crying and for things it didn't get and really wanted, or things that it got and were taken away. So definitely a wounded, wretched heart, a broken heart is what I bring to revelation in order to find the meaning I couldn't find on my own. And but I recognize in me the need to find that meaning, which I also didn't give myself, which tortures me, keeps telling me, you know, find meaning, and I suffer for it. So either I can just suffer for it and die, or I can say, well, somebody made me, you know, suffer for lack of meaning. Why? So maybe I need to find meaning, and that's why I look for revelation. And that's an active thing I do. I need to look for revelation. You know, active passive again is that when I find that meaning that revelation gives more satisfactory than my own, then there's a moment of surrender and passivity to me. I will say, no, the meaning I gave is better. Or I will say, no, the meaning you are giving, my maker, is better for my heart, piece of my heart that you made broken with the world that you made. And so I understand that, you know, in that way. And so definitely my unmet needs would need to be given meaning by that same maker, and it would have to satisfy me. And if I apply what I learn, the needs as messengers, needs as calling for helps, all the calling for help as messengers. What does it mean? Why does the messenger say Mata Nasrullah? So if I don't take it simply, you know, something that I don't need to confirm, but as something that I need to confirm within my experience, if that is the case, if I look at my need as a messenger saying this, what meaning do I get for it? And so I would have to reflect on that. And so therefore, to put it shortly, the problem of evil has an answer. It is not a problem without an answer. There is no unresolved problem of evil. Um, it is resolved by, for me, from what the Quran says about unifying the source. When I actually truly unify the source, um, and don't stop halfway, that I give my grievance to myself. I say, you make life and I love death. I love life and I don't like death. So at that level, when I actually unify, there is no problem of evil. There's only the problem of not fully giving up my claim, false claim that this is mine. My sadness at unmet needs is not mine. I did not make it. And my disappointment is not mine. And these are to be read, and I need a guide that helps me read these uh, real experiences and realities. Uh, there is no passivity as far as I'm concerned about that, that somehow something will drop in my lap. No, the opening of the eyes, that's why I want to be careful with that, because then Dr. Yamina said that that's not an easy thing. It's an analogy, but it really needs reflection. That's why the Quran says this is dhikr, this is for my reflection, but the proper response is to reflect on meaning, as far as I'm concerned, because that is where my joy and my cries are, the meaning of things. That's what my heart is either given peace with or made to yearn for. So anyway, I'm sorry to say a lot of big words and very quickly, but just wanted to say that's absolutely central, brilliant question about unmet needs. We haven't been able to say much about it, but God willing, if somebody looks for guidance in the Quran, there is, I think, for me, satisfactory guidance on those questions. Well, thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you. Jazakumullah khair, everyone. Jazakumullah khair. This has been a beautiful conversation. I want to read one sentence that was in the chat box that Faraz wrote. That might be a good ending. It said, if I accept being a caller unto him, he's there as the answerer. So we will pause here, unless there's somebody who wants to say, in a couple last comments or takeaways. We can take a couple more minutes. Okay, if not, then inshallah we will continue our Quran feast next week, inshallah, next Sunday, with two other guest speakers, Brother Elijah Reynolds and Sister Mahan Nuruddin, at the same time at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We also, before that, next Wednesday, again at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, we will be having a study from Imam Nursi's text tafsir. We will reflect together with Dr. Yamina on 11th word, where we are looking into how human being can see the beautiful names of God through the world and through themselves. Please join us next Wednesday, inshallah, and be in touch. This recording will be online on Receiving Nur YouTube channel. Feel free to explore the YouTube channel. And if you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, it's very easy to do. You just need to go to receivingnur.org, and in the main page there is a form to fill out, very easy form to put your email in to be part of Receiving Nur newsletter reminders. If you have a friend that you want to subscribe to, they can do so, or you can do it for them. And if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to reach us at Receiving Nur. Assalamu alaikum, jazakumullah khair for today's presenters, jazakumullah khair Yamina, and everyone else who joined with questions and comments. May Allah bless you all, and may it be a Ramadan of blessings for all of us. Jazakumullah khair.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Thank you everyone, and especially Sarah and Faraz. Thank you very much. Alhamdulillah.
Jazakumullah khair, Sarah and Faraz. Thank you.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Thank you.